Hey, it's Brian Shaw, and we are 3 weeks out from the 2016 Arnold Classic. So things are starting to get crazy. I'm going to talk about in this video peaking for the contest. We're going to talk a little bit about the new deadlift bar and plates that Rogue just made, and pictures came out about those. And then we're going to talk about just how I'm feeling overall at this point right now in my training and preparation. So let's talk a little bit about peaking for the Arnold Classic. And this is a very unique competition because it's so heavy overall. And this week we got actually a good question about this. And the question was, would I do a mock competition in training to get myself ready to compete? And to be honest, that's a really good question. I actually used to do that several years ago, but at that point in time, the weights were quite a bit lighter. Actually substantially lighter. So, for me at that point in time, training with 100% or over 100% weight for the competition wasn't that hard. So I could then set it up as a mock competition. Typically, I would do that 2 weeks out from the actual contest, and that would be my last hard training, and then deload from there. But this year, because the weights are all so heavy for every event, I don't think it's smart to do a mock competition, and I'm not going to do one this year. I didn't do it last year either, and it seemed to work out all right. So this year, what I'm going to do is I'm trying to just kind of pick a training day for each event to work up to contest weight with each event, and make sure I'm ready for all of those events individually, and then hopefully all of those pieces I can put together, and it all works out good at the competition. So each year with training for this contest, it's a very much a learning process, and you kind of have to, it's kind of a trial and error that you go through because you don't know how your body is going to be feeling, how you're going to respond to training, and each day that you walk in the gym, you need to be smart enough to decide how heavy to go, how much to push, how much to back off, and it becomes very much a mental game as well, getting ready for the contest. So as far as peaking, I have right now just about another week of really hard, heavy training. And then from there, I'll start to back off slightly and go back down in weight, and then do more recovery work. And then hopefully come into the contest as fresh as possible. And believe me, it's a big challenge to get ready for all these events, both mentally and physically. But, it's something that I can say with confidence that I've been through a number of times now, and I know how I'm going to respond to my training. And once I get my recovery work in and I peak for the contest, I know how I'm going to feel. So I'm confident with that. I'm feeling really good about the peak. So it's going to be fun. It'll be interesting to see all this hard work pay off here in a few weeks. So the next thing I want to talk about is this week Rogue actually put out a few different pictures of the new deadlift bar that we're going to use at the contest, as well as the actual 45-pound plates that we're going to use at the contest. Obviously, both of those they look amazing, and I'm really excited to get a hold of that bar and to pull on it and to use those weights. It's gonna look phenomenal for the contest, and I think it's going to be a really cool event to watch. As far as like analyzing that event, I've really been going back and forth in my training with what bar to use. And I've used a variety of different bars to try to get better for that event. After seeing the picture, I'm very confident in saying I'm not going to be able to duplicate the actual deadlift no matter what I do. So I'm not sure how it's going to feel. It's one of those things I think that just being truthful, once I get to the contest, I'm just going to have to warm up with that actual bar, and we'll see. I don't know what kind of weights are going to be lifted. I don't think anybody can really guess what kind of weights are going to be lifted. So, all I can do is stay with my training plan. I feel like I've done a good job of throwing myself some curveballs with training, and I don't know. It'll be exciting. I mean, I think you got several big deadlifters coming, and it may play more into the cards for somebody that's a little bit weaker off the floor. The bar's going to flex a little bit more and be more forgiving off the floor than a stiff bar would. But I don't know how much flex we're going to get. So, I think everybody's kind of got their strengths and weaknesses when it comes to deadlifting. So it just depends on if this bar works well for a certain guy. He may pull more weight with it, and it very much could be feel very similar to a standard deadlift bar, and the weights may be very similar to what we would pull with a standard setup. So it's going to be very interesting. There's a lot of unknown variables, I think, with this event, which, you know, it's a cool part of strongman, being able to use new equipment. To be honest, it kind of drives me crazy because I would rather have the actual equipment to train on, so I know what I'm going to have to do at the contest and how it's going to feel. But, you know, I think we're all in the same boat on this, and, you know, it'll be tough to make those choices because we also have to call our own weights at the contest. It's not a rising bar like 95% of strongman contests. When you do a max, typically the referee calls the weight. You know, for us, we have to select our 3 weights. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on all of us to make the right choices. And it's going to get really competitive. I know it will, but you have to be smart with those weight choices going up. So there's a big challenge, and there's a lot of variables with the deadlift. So, you know, it's going to be really interesting to see how that works out. So the last thing that I want to talk about is just kind of how I'm feeling overall, you know, because you guys have been watching now for weeks, and every week we're doing a different update here and trying to bring it all together. And there's, you know, as you can see, there's a lot of thought and training that goes into getting ready for this big of a competition. So overall right now, I'm definitely feeling a little bit more beat up, just because, like I said, in the last couple weeks, the weights have been increasing in my training. So that's normal. That's a very normal thing to feel beat up. But on a positive side of that, I'm definitely responding to those weights really well. So I feel like my body's adapting quickly, and that I'm being able to overcome that, you know, increased demand from training. So that's definitely a good thing. I feel like the diet's working really well right now, and that's playing into it. And my recovery work has never been better. I'm working with more people this year, and you know, just overall better. Everything has been better. All right, so let's get into a couple of your questions. There were a few people that were wondering about the Atlas Stone and how that was going to work this year, if I was going to go after a new world record with that or not at the Arnold. And basically the way that it'll work is they're making a new stone right now that should come in roughly at 555 pounds. And I'm going to have an opportunity to lift that on Sunday after the competition. So as long as I'm not feeling too beat up, or obviously if I don't get banged up in the actual contest, then I'll go after that on Sunday and hopefully set a new world record. But, you know, right now it's kind of strange, to be honest, because I'm used to only training for the events that are actually in the competition, and throwing in another event like that that'll be outside of the competition. I don't want to spend very much time or put very much effort into training that, because it'll take away from training for the actual events in the contest. So if I do this, honestly, I've just kind of decided that it's got to be for fun, and if I'm feeling up to it, I'll go for it. But there's no way that I'm going to even train close to that weight in training. So, you know, hopefully that answers your question. And you know, like I said, I'm going to have fun with it. If I decide to go after it and try to do it, then it'll just be for fun for me. The next question that I got was about the 300-pound dumbbell, and this person was asking if I thought that there was going to be multiple people doing reps at that, or if there was going to be a tie and we'd see several people do one, or if anybody was going to get one. So this is a good question, and to be honest, I don't know if there's anybody that can answer this very well, just because we've never been tested this heavy. It's never been done in a competition. You know, there's a lot of variables in lifting a 300-pound dumbbell with one arm. So, you know, I think that there's several men going to this contest that are capable or have a chance of lifting the 300-pound dumbbell. How many people will actually get it at the competition when there's stricter judging and, you know, that sort of thing, I don't know. It's really hard to say. I think that, you know, in my opinion, I think that it's going to get lifted. You know, and we'll just see. We'll see. It's definitely an interesting, you know, an interesting variable to the contest, because, you know, we've seen how the guys have responded to a 274-pound dumbbell, but, you know, stepping up to a 300-pound dumbbell is a pretty drastic increase in weight. So, you know, I think it's probably gonna bury some guys at the contest, and I think it's gonna be a lot harder than what people are thinking. So. Yeah, it'll be an interesting event. I don't think there's a clear-cut winner in that. to be fair. But, it's why we do the contest. I mean, if it was a clear-cut winner with everything, then there would be no point in competing, right? So, it's one of those things. I'm very interested to see what happens, and I'm definitely looking forward to that event. So, hopefully it's fun, and we'll see what the outcome is. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up there. As always, thank you guys for checking the video out. Thank you for asking your questions. And, if I didn't get to your question, I'll try to get to it maybe next week. We've got one more really hard week of training here, and it's going to be a grind, but I'm looking forward to the challenge as always, and plan on being ready to go. So we'll come at you here in about another week with another update.